With just 1 month left until the release of Rogue One, a Star Wars story, we have been given Catalyst, a Rogue One novel. In this video, I'm going to start with a spoiler-free review just to tell you if it's worth your time and money, and then I'll get into spoilers and the major takeaways from this book. Let me start by saying that Catalyst is not an absolutely required read before you see Rogue One. You'll be able to go into the film and understand everything. But I am very happy that I read it. I honestly think by experiencing this story, I'll have a much better connection with some of the characters, most specifically Galen Erso and Orson Krennic. Most of the story follows them, their relationship, and their involvement with the Death Star. The timeline starts about a year into the Clone Wars and takes us through the events of Revenge of the Sith, and then 2 or 3 years beyond that. It's not quite clear. And this is the most transitionary piece of Star Wars content we've had so far. It's connected to both the original and prequel trilogies, and the Clone Wars, and other books. We actually get to see the Empire phasing out Venator-class Star Destroyers for Imperial-class. We get to see clone troopers in stormtrooper armor. We hear about the first TIE fighters to come off the assembly line. And we get to see how the Empire manipulated just about everyone in the galaxy to get what they want. What I think is most impressive is how engaging the story is, despite basically knowing how it'll end up. I mean, these are all new characters, but we know from the Rogue One trailers that Galen and his family go into hiding, and that Krennic finds him. So this story backtracks from that point, much like Rogue One will be backtracking from Episode 4. But James Luceno makes perfect use of dramatic irony and takes full advantage of our knowledge of future events to help us sympathize with or scorn particular characters. Yet at the same time, he writes Krennic to be just charming enough. It's kinda like those early scenes of X-Men First Class between Charles and Eric. You know they're gonna end up enemies, but you just can't help but enjoy their friendship. I would say a major theme of this book is what it means to serve the greater good. In a strange way, Galen Erso is kind of a foil to the entire Empire. Galen believes his work is noble and will provide a great service to the entire galaxy. In a way, the Empire believes the Death Star will also serve a great purpose in keeping peace and stability. But when it comes down to it, the Empire will do anything and sacrifice anyone to achieve their goals. Galen sacrifices time with his wife and daughter in the name of providing them with a better future, but comes to learn that future isn't worth having if they aren't all together. So, do I think this book is worth your time? Yes, I do. I think Catalyst is going to really enrich Rogue One and give you a greater appreciation for the Erso family and a better understanding of Krennic and his motivations as a villain. And beyond the connections that it has with a future film, it's still a really well-written and engaging book. By the way, if you want to check the book out for free and help the channel at the same time, there is a link in the description to start a trial on Audible. Go to www.audibletrial.com/Star Wars Explained and you can listen to Catalyst for free. Okay, I'm going to get into the plot and spoilers now, so if you do want to read the book, you have been warned. Not surprisingly, we get a lot of new information about the Death Star and its development. I was surprised to learn how early construction began, which was less than a year after the Battle of Geonosis, but also that it was a Republic weapon pretty much from the start. It was my understanding that it was a separatist weapon and the Republic just took over when the Clone Wars ended. Well, here's how all that really played out. At the end of Attack of the Clones, Dooku takes the plans for the Death Star to his master, where he claims they'll be safe. Well, sometime after the second Battle of Geonosis and the capture of Poggle the Lesser, which is seen in the Clone Wars show, the plans are revealed to a select group of people known as the Strategic Advisory Cell. Palpatine theorizes that if these plans exist, the Separatists are certainly working on a superweapon, and the Republic had better build one first. Krennic then negotiates with Poggle the Lesser and secures the Geonosian workforce in exchange for his release, and voila, the Death Star begins construction. The Strategic Advisory Cell members agree that building the station would be a huge undertaking, but that it's totally possible, except for the super laser. And that's where Galen Erso comes in. Galen studies crystals, and he is specifically interested in kyber crystals. He wants to harness their power to provide sustainable energy for developing worlds, but the Jedi are protective of them, so his only option is to, get this, create synthetic ones. So synthetic crystals kind of come back to canon, but they don't work. But I do think it was nice that they were at least acknowledged. Krennic and Galen were old friends back in what equates to college for us, but Krennic knows he can't just ask Erso to build him a super laser. So he spends months, maybe even years, slowly manipulating Galen into a position where he will work with the Empire. Yeah, the process takes so long, the Clone Wars have ended. Well, with the Jedi gone, Krennic is able to entice his old friend with their real, genuine kyber crystals. The whole manipulation plot was probably my favorite thing to read in this book. It was fun seeing Krennic play the long game to get what he wants. And at the same time, it was kinda nice seeing Galen get what he wants, even though it was at the cost of the Jedi. This book made me feel so vindicated because I've been guessing that Galen's work would be meant for good and that the Empire would take his work and twist it for the Death Star. I even guessed he'd work on sustainable energy. So sorry for the tangent, I just wanted to pat myself on the back, because that's exactly what happens. Galen works in a facility made to create energy from kyber crystals. His research is then sent to an identical one where scientists try to weaponize it. But they clearly don't understand kyber crystals like Galen does, because in one test, they blow up an entire city, killing tens of thousands. Of course, Galen eventually discovers what his work is really being used for, and he escapes with his family, which tarnishes Krennic's name a bit. I think that's going to make for a very interesting reunion. But that's the plot down to its barest bones, the basics of what you'll want to know for Rogue One. But there's still more I'd like to talk about. We've only seen one shot of Jyn's mother from the film so far, Lyra. Well, she is a significant part of this book, and she's great. I think maybe the biggest service this book does is provide her with so much life and character, but I didn't want to talk about her before because I'm guessing she just won't survive very long in Rogue One. Having read this book and assuming I'm right about that, that's going to hit me much harder. People have also guessed that she might be force sensitive because she has what's most likely a kyber crystal. Well, those people would be right. But it's like crazy light force sensitivity, more of a general connection with and passion for nature. So I don't think we're going to see any force abilities passed on to Jyn, but we could absolutely see her believing in the force or at least a power greater than herself. There's this whole subplot that involves Krennic and a group of smugglers framing different mineral-rich planets so the Empire can take over and take all their resources. Well, that leads to some insurgency led by a man named Saw Gerrera. I was pleasantly surprised to see him pop up, and he is actually the man to take the Ersos into hiding from the Empire. So he and Jyn actually go way, way back. Which brings me to some speculation. Jyn is born about 1 year into the Clone Wars, making her about 21 at the time of Rogue One. In the trailers, Mon Mothma says Jyn has been on her own since the age of 15. But this does not look like a 15-year-old girl. So either she's older than she looks, or she spends some time with someone else after Krennic finds her family. Well, at the end of the book, Saw gives the Ersos a comm card in case they ever need his help. I'm betting Jyn reached out to Saw and was maybe even raised by him for a bit. The final topic I want to cover is the rivalry between Krennic and Tarkin. They were a lot of fun together. Krennic is pretty much in charge of the entire Death Star project as we see it. He sees himself as confident and a real go-getter, but everyone else sees him as cocky and short-sighted. Yet he gets results, and despite his methods being annoying, Imperial leadership forgives him time and time again. Except Tarkin. Tarkin has his eyes set on controlling the Death Star project himself, and seeing the two of them play off each other was so much fun. The games they play and the moves they make to frustrate and occupy each other, it was classic Imperial officer stuff. Backstabbing and always on the lookout for self-advancement, especially on Krennic's side. But of course, we know who wins that battle. And I really look forward to seeing them interact in Rogue One, assuming Tarkin does make an appearance. Okay, I think I've gone on long enough about Catalyst, and I've covered all of the major revelations and things you'll need to know going into Rogue One. Remember, if you're interested in checking it out for yourself, you can get it for free by going to www.audibletrial.com/Star Wars Explained, and you'll be helping the channel out. I'm sure I'll be covering more of this book in the very near future, but if you haven't already, please like and share this video, subscribe to the channel to see new Star Wars videos every day, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. As always, thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you.